Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here, holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. Yeah, just nod your head with it. So explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it. No scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool. Hear my heartbeat beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind. Oh no, it's ponderoso, dope. So no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones. Bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in. Full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio. Once again with your host Nick Burnaby here on UCY.TV. I'm joined by my co-host DB Schwartz. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing good, man. Just getting ready to sell my dude, and I started to research a lot of the stuff about your article with Toyota moving its corporate headquarters, and it harkens back to what we talked about last week about how when everybody who's uninsured becomes insured on the backs of everybody else in California, and that's 13 million people, well, you can expect tax to just about double. And that was not a typo, and the people who are wealthy know this, and they're all moving to Texas, believe it or not.
Yeah, man. And not only that, but then you got Rick Perry on this whole corporate welfare, huge push that they're doing down there, man. They're subsidizing all these huge corporations and stuff.
Yep.
So right at this moment, Texas's economy is growing like wildfire. But sooner or later, there's going to be like no small business left because they're bringing in all these, undercutting all these small businesses with all this crony backdoor dealings and stuff like that, which kind of sucks too, man. But
well, this is all part of the whole thing where it's the Fortune 50 becomes the corporatocracy of our great country, and we transition into what is going to become the new world order of things. So that's the test bed. Now, the funny thing is, it's also super pro-gun and super libertarian, so it's kind of a strange battleground of sorts between two ideologies. One is old America, according to the people that are, well, let's face it, not really right in the head, that are running things. And then their new America, which is going to be a complete meritocracy. But it's totally crony, because a meritocracy means everybody would start equal and whoever's the best would get the most stuff. But nobody starts equal. Everybody starts in a different way. So until we get to a point where college is free and healthcare is free and all these other things we all need are free, it's more cronyism.
It's like, you know, if all the people that were like oppressed and poor in the world had access to education and to all these resources and legitimate food where they're not malnourished and their brains don't get to form right and all this stuff. I mean, dude, think about where we would be in just a matter of a few years if all the millions of geniuses every year that end up dying because they can't eat or they're trapped in Africa where they can't get access to education or internet or anything like that, power, food, water, you know. I mean, man, if we were able to tap into the wasted or the oppressed minds that are out there in the world instead of just trying to keep oppressing them, and if instead we let them run free with all these resources, man, think about where we can get to in just 10 years.
And there's no substitute for brain power. Now, what people like to say is manpower is not important because humans are being replaced by machines. That's absolutely correct. However, machines can't think, at least not right now in the classical sense. And there's a lot of circumstantial evidence that points to the fact that if aliens existed and they were replaced by their own machines, wouldn't we be being visited by a bunch of machine races at this point? The answer is that machines just don't think. They can follow an algorithm, they can self-program, but they're within the parameters of our imagination. So the thing is, you need people. And who has the most people in the world? If even 10% of that country got behind something, it's more than we could muster on our best day. So we understand who the giant in the world is right now, and everybody should realize that everything going on with the posturing with Russia and us, that's just a distraction from what's going to be the worst thing you'll ever see, which is China completely obliterate Japan.
Which, I mean, if you look at what's going on in China, there's a big nationalistic movement going on right there in China right now, man.
And they'll fight Japan because otherwise they will revolt again, because they always do. And they're all one culture, the Han. So they all unify against an oppressive government and a tyrannical one. So the only thing they can do is find an outlet, and that outlet will be Japan. And they'll bring up World War II. They'll bring up the Manchurian slaughter and the 65 million that the Japanese killed, which is an enormous number. Just think about that. 65 million. People.
It's grotesque what they did over there, man. They made what the Nazis did look like child's play.
It was, because at least for the Nazis, their whole philosophy was that they categorized people as lesser humans, whereas the Chinese were considered less than humans by the Japanese, and so they were brutalized like animals. And it can't be forgiven, especially when you consider that China has how many centurions, how many people lived through that and have vivid memories and passed those stories down. I mean, the hatred is generational, and they need an outlet, and like you said, they're having problems now, so.
And now you know that Japan is roughly under a similar kind of treaty that Ukraine is. Now, Japan is technically disarmed.
Yes.
They don't have much of an army. They have a few navy, but it's mostly for kind of, humanitarian and for Coast Guard type things. I mean, so let's face it. If there was we're liable now for Japan's actions.
We are.
So when Japan does anything bad, or they cause anything, or China decides to take those islands and it sparks something, guess what? It's our guys that are going to go out there and fight.
Partially. And we see what's happening now, which is the world stage, and we're going to take on the other two superpowers. One will be direct, one will be a proxy. And the proxy will be China, and we'll arm the Philippines, Australia will arm everybody around them. And yeah, we'll throw in some Marines here and there. The brunt of it's going to go against Russia and the Ukraine. And this is a banker war, man. Pure and simple. The economy is about to fall apart. The only thing that can save it is either a crazy Project Bluebeam fake alien invasion, or let's just start a big world war. That's it. That's the only thing that can save these guys. Otherwise, the House of Cards falls down, and we'll figure them out. That's
the only thing that can save the old economy. And
you got it.
All the powers that be in place. Now, the third thing that could happen, which, at the moment, it's not looking, the prospects aren't looking great, but times can change pretty quickly, is when the people take everything back, and then we see more or less a movement of kind of enlightenment, a new enlightenment era. I mean, and it could happen. Right now, there's just so many rivaling factions and so many people degrading other people and so many racists, so many divisionists and all this stuff. So right now it's kind of like a bleak prospect, man. But I think there could be a time when things start to change really, really rapidly.
It will. It's only going to take the economic system to fail in one of these super giant countries. So what I believe is happening right now is cat and mouse games to see who has the most robust way to either distract or provide for their citizenry. Now, who is the best country in the world at distracting their citizenry?
We're probably one of the best.
I mean, we're the best. We have the NFL, the NBA, the MLB, UFC, plays, theater, movies. Name it. You can do it here and escape your horrid reality and get your food stamp so you won't go hungry. It's not good food, but you're not going to starve.
Well, Canada's pretty good with distracting people with the hockey thing, and these guys will even riot when their teams lose. Or
know
win.
It. So So Russia's got great nationalism, and that'll work for a while, but if they have a problem with food, it's not going to happen. And China, honestly, like with that many people, if they had one bad crop, it'd be bad. So who's going to outlast who? And obviously, are Russia and us going to be dumb enough to try to exchange nuclear strikes on each other? Because then we know what will happen. We're going to all have to head for the hills.
Yeah, let's hope that it doesn't devolve into that. And unfortunately, all the posturing going on right now, Russia keeps posturing. They supposedly flew into Ukrainian airspace a bunch of times, and then we're putting on more sanctions. And let's not water it down. Sanctions are an act of war. Okay, so the war's already begun, and right now it's mostly economic, but people are starting to die over there.
Well, the G7, it used to be the G8. They booted Russia out. I mean, they put it on an island on its own, and more or less it's going to go back to an Iron Curtain type of economy, which, by the way, will absolutely crush the European economy because they have to have that heating oil. I mean, this winter coming up here, when December hits, it's going to be brutal if this saber rattling continues to escalate and it goes into a conflict. I mean, they'll just cut off those gas supplies.
Well, hopefully everyone listening takes our advice that we talk about. We talk about it almost every show, the need to go off grid. And right now we're seeing this perfect example play out in Europe, because now Europe, they can't really do anything because Russia's got them by the back. They got them by the backbone.
Everything's tied together. For instance, where me and you live, we rely on produce by and large from Central and South America, and when our dollar does finally give the old heave-ho, all those imports will stop coming in, and a lot of our variety of foods and produce will stop. I mean, we're in a better position being a port town with the Central Valley right above us, and yeah, we have a water problem, but there's worse places to be than here, even though everybody says SoCal's so bad. And a really bad place to be is Europe if you don't have your own heating oil, which barely any of them do. I think Germany is the only one that can tell Russia to pretty much take a hike because they can run on other things. But every other country, even Britain, is just relying on it.
Oh, yeah, man. Like, very, very reliant, man. So, the reasoning behind us talking about going off grid all the time, well, this is a perfect example. And, now these guys they really can't do anything to Russia. It's up to us. Now, since we're not relying on Russia's oil, Russia's natural gas, now it's up to us. Now we gotta we're becoming the pawn for Europe because, Europe wants to do something to them, but they can't let it be known that it's them doing it. Cause they don't want to get their oil cut off. But unfortunately, it also hamstrings us, which in a way it's kind of a good thing, because we can't do anything either, because if we do, then all of our European friends are going to get hurt, and then so it's basically either it's all out war or it's nothing, right. And that's what I think we're facing now. And I mean, all out proxy war or nothing. And hopefully, being that Russia has the chess, they're in the better position on the chessboard, that they're able to deter us from turning this thing into a widespread conflict. And now the thing that is so ironic about this whole thing, and all these U.S. officials and all these people from the G8 and the UN, NATO, all these guys, they're saying, oh, well, we got to stop Russia from doing all this aggression and all this, causing this destabilization. They're literally saying that Russia was causing this destabilization while we were the ones that went in and backed this banker overthrow of Ukraine. Right. We're the ones that destabilized the place, not them. Right. They're trying to restabilize the place. I mean, it's insane.
Well, it's just Ukraine is Canada. If anybody asks you what's going on over there, be like, dude, if any other country in the world tried to overthrow Canada's government, you think we'd just sit here? Like, you can't have an aggressor at your border. It's suicidal to do that. Putin had to do what he did because of the geography of it. And so this is not any kind of a build up or any kind of an overthrow or anything else. It's just a power grab and another country having to do what they have to do. I'm not going to sit here and say that what he's doing overwhelmingly, just basically bombarding Ukraine and collapsing, it's the way to go. But at this point, it's either that or there's going to be some kind of NORAD missile base right on his border, and what is he supposed to do then?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like John Kerry, and we're going to get into a little more what John Kerry talked about today, because he had a huge draconian slip today. What John Kerry said when Russia initially went into Crimea, was that countries shouldn't be going into other countries on trumped up charges to assert their interests. Now, of course, that came off as kind of a joke, because that's kind of what that's kind of what our government is known for doing, like, all the time.
Right.
But it's true. You know, Russia went in there to assert their interests. They want to protect their interests. They have a huge Navy presence in Crimea, and they have all their pipelines that they need to take care of. And, you know, Kerry said that it was trumped up, but no, it's real. Russia has real interests in Ukraine, and they're trying to protect them. Is it right what they're doing? No. Is it right what we're doing? Hell no. So, yeah, of course, neither side is right here. But I think we are more or less the aggressor and the destabilizer in the area, not Russia. And I think mostly America's on board with this. I see in the media they're trying to bring this Cold War rhetoric back into the system, but I don't think the people are buying into it. It just doesn't seem that way. All the people I know, all the people I talk to, people aren't really buying into it. They know it's not right, but they don't want America to get involved. Just like in Syria. I mean, the situation in Syria is still very bad. People are dying by the dozens.
Yep.
But the only thing that American meddling in the area did was prolong the suffering and prolong the people that were going to die. If Assad if the people of Syria were ready to overthrow Assad, it would have happened right away.
Right.
You know, unfortunately, Assad still has a lot of loyalists down there.
Well,
and he's got a lot of Russian backing.
Well, it's the Alawite sect that's 10% of the country. So imagine, you know, it's, I hate to make a parallel to it, but it would be like any kind of minority sect getting their candidate finally getting into a place of power to be able to dictate whatever the policies of the country are and totally catering to that group. And now he has this ironclad, no matter what he does to screw over the populace at large, he'll always have that 10% of hardcore backers simply because he's Alawite. Just the simple kind of follower of Islam he is. So it's fanatical. You probably only need like 3% of the population to be able to make a change. So when you have 10% behind you, no one's toppling you. Not when they're totally behind you.
Yeah, not if they hold their ideals very, very strongly. And that's exactly like I forget who it was that said that, but basically any time that a 10% holds these ideals very, very strongly, and they're united on this one thing, then there's really not much anyone can do about it. And that's kind of, I guess that's kind of what Assad is doing over there in Syria, because he's got those ethnically speaking, these people will follow him anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, they'll do anything he says, no
they're
matter
fanatical.
how wrong it is. Yeah,
fanatical followers because they're tribal over there, and that power base will die for him and they make up a major part of his officers, and that's why their military, regardless of whatever losses they take or whatever horrific things that these crazy ass Al-Qaeda branches are doing to the citizens, the army just goes in there calmly and professionally and takes them out, and they're winning because they just have the tech. You know, you can't airdrop a tank and give it to Al-Qaeda. They have like some RPGs and stuff. They're not competing well, and they're losing, and they always will. And proxy wars are just always a losing cause, and they're just ridiculous.
Yeah, and we obviously also backed the anti-Syrian regime as well, and we pumped money, guns, ammo. Some people think that we may have been responsible for the chemical weapons that went off over there, just because it didn't make sense for Assad to be using chemical weapons from a strategic standpoint, because he knew that it would cause international outcry, Yeah.
So it served no strategic purpose at all. And that's why people knew it was BS. It's bogus. It's similar to any of this. At this point, the mainstream media, if they pump something up, everyone knows it's false. Now, there's still some people do, but I mean, generally speaking, if you're under 30 years old, you know what's going on. You read internet news from a variety of sources, and you see that the four major players carry the same parrot story, and everybody else does the opposite. So who's telling the truth? The people making millions a year to keep up the puppet act, or people in the basement that are trying to figure stuff out by looking at other sources? I mean, it's just ridiculous at this point.
Exactly. You know, the mainstream media takes talking points directly from the government. The alternative media tries to connect the dots about what else can be happening. And yeah, we get it. A lot of people get it wrong sometimes. A lot of people mess up and they put out misinformation. But for the most part, most of these guys try to stay away from disinformation, which is important, and that's what we get from the mainstream, because they can easily just blame it on the, you know, oh, well, we were just regurgitating the official talking point, so it's not technically our fault, you know what I mean? So, you know, that's what they did with the Boston bombing, that's what they did with the Sandy Hook, I mean, with all these facts that don't line up and all this stuff. Oh, well, you know, it's because the story was rapidly evolving and all this stuff. Well, then keep your mouth shut if you don't know.
Well, exactly. Like, this breaking news becomes sensationalism, and it gives them an out. Do you see what I mean? Being incompetent gives you an out for being devious. If you're stupid, you can't be evil. And the case being is that they're not stupid. They're making it look like they are. And everything is very carefully micro-planned for a very dumbed down populace for the most part. The great thing is kids today are very smart because of the internet. They're basically teaching themselves and calling out the BS they're learning, and they really are hope.
Yeah, man, I was out yesterday. I went out to the Earth Fair, and we had a booth set up for the March Against Monsanto, and I just want to give a quick shout out to the World Beat Center, Makeda Dredd, for hooking us up, man. I can't believe how awesome this woman is for us and for San Diego, man. I mean, she provides a venue and a community center. They teach gardening. They teach all kinds of classes there, man.
She's an institution too. She's been on the radio and been in the community for what, like 30 or 40 years? I mean,
oh yeah, dude. She used to hang out with Bob Marley. Bob Marley used to come to San Diego to chill with her, and Peter Tosh and all these guys, man. Oh, yeah. I mean, she's classic, man. And,
I know.
And she seemed to have kind of taken a liking to me and our group and what we're doing. And she likes what we're doing, and she had me speak down at Earth Day, man. There was about 80,000 people there. And,
wow.
I mean, my audience at the time was probably around 5,000, 10,000, but I mean total there's about 80,000 people at this event, and they hooked us up with a free booth, man. We passed out like 1,000 flyers at least.
Wow.
Oh man, I mean it was awesome, and the cool thing was, and you know Earth Day, San Diego, it's a smoke down. Everybody's getting smoked out, getting blazed, you know what I mean? And I mean the vibe was just insane, man, and it gave me a lot of hope. Because the people were very receptive to what I was saying. You know, I basically got on stage and said, F the government, more or less. And, everyone was cheering for that. And you know, the people already, man, and a lot of these people were more of the oppressed population, minorities, people that don't have very much money, but they're ready to take action, man. And it gave me a lot of hope. And then just the energy that was there, the vibes, man, it was just great. I was riding like this high, like all day. And it was just like the greatest thing. Today, it's like I have like a positive energy hangover, dude. I'm like I was in like a froth like all day. And, but it was just so inspiring to see people, in the community that are down for the cause, you know, and it's happening. And like we talked about earlier, man, a lot of people are waking up. A lot of them have their own factions. We have the Bundy faction, and then you have the Alex Jones faction, the Tea Party faction, the Occupy faction, the anarchist faction, the left, the progressive faction, you know. But in the end, the main thing that divides all these groups is just the language that they use. You know, and everybody knows that something is wrong. Everybody wants other people to be free. Everybody thinks everyone should be free. Everyone wants a better economic situation. Everybody wants better food.
And it's not so tough. I mean, our perfect blueprint and the template for the beginning of this is look at more or less all of the private patents owned by major, more or less hedge funds and these investment vehicles that are owned by royal and ancient families, and find out what they've kept from humanity in order to enslave us, like the cures for diseases and the way to travel much, much faster than we have been traveling, and all sorts of technological advances that are at least 100 years ahead of where we think we are. And then watch what happens to humanity when we start to colonize within our own solar system in like 4 or 5 decades. These things can happen. They can happen. We don't need to do any crazy kind of genocidal actions on our planet. We just need to spread out. That's all we got to do.
Exactly, man. And if we're able to open source the mind, if we're able to get everybody in the world access to these resources and to this information, kind of like we mentioned earlier, how there's probably geniuses dying by the millions every year that just don't have access, and they're malnourished, and they can't get internet access, they can't get electricity. Just imagine where we can get to, man. We'd be out of the solar system in no time. We'd escape this prison planet when the sun blows up. That's the big thing. That's where we all got to think about, because sooner or later, it may be a billion years from now, it may be a couple 100 million, it may be sooner than we think. But sooner or later, we eventually, if humanity and life as we know it is to prevail, then we have to unite and focus our energy on science and creating, and not competing against each other, but competing for each other, so that we can escape this planet one day if we need to, and hopefully if we want to. And
it's got to be imminent, because we'll harp on this every now and then, because new information keeps coming out. And I looked at what the F really's meltdown and meltouts of Fukushima. I don't think we even have another century here. I think this is going to be long-standing damage eventually, when it accumulates out and it gets to the core, because it's probably descending towards it, or maybe hit it already. And maybe water tables are already compromised. We just don't know, and we won't be told that maybe something like that is enough for us to worry about. We need to get off of here in case. I mean, there's things like Yellowstone right now that could decimate a large portion of a heavily populated area. We can't rely on planet A and no planet B when we know that theoretically, at least, we can get off of here with a lot of people and start new things going. We know it. I mean, if we can get to the moon in 69, what do you think they can do now that they're not telling you?
There's just so much that we probably don't know. And
we're on the moon. We're on Mars. We're on 50 years past the moon landing. And that even was probably like just... That might have been something later than we've done other things before that to set it up. You know, they always talked about things being done in the 50s too, and that Nazis even landed some crap on the moon, and we had to go up and destroy it because it was some kind of repeater or rudimentary satellite or something that they put up there. I mean, there's all kinds of things. So who knows what we're at this point.
Yeah, man, and so it's like, you know, chances are if we keep at this rate, humanity will destroy the ecosystem of the Earth ourselves. We don't have to wait for the sun to come around for the sun to turn into a supernova or whatever it does. You know, we're getting closer and closer to destroying it ourselves.
The thing is, we're close there already, because we're using fuel we don't need to use, and it's because of this huge global. Well, we can call it a cabal because they own all of the energy we can use. I mean, the thing is, we could all have solar panel roofs that just power everything, period. We'd hardly ever need to tap into the grid at all if we all had solar panel roofs, period. If all the shingles were just tiny solar panels with little microchips that were attached to their so-called smart grid they love, we'd have like $2 a month energy bills. These should be standard. I mean, you can make the streets out of solar panels. There's a patent out now where this asphalt we're using that needs to be repaved all the time, replace it with these super durable solar panels that never need to be replaced. And this is public property, so to speak, right? Because it's a road. So let's make it energy efficient. Let's pump it into the grid.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many different solutions out there. And we're obviously kept in the dark, kept on this grid for a reason, on purpose.
Of course.
And it's up to us, as the citizens of this great country, so they like to say, or just as people in general.
You mean as the employees of this great company?
Oh, yeah.
We have to demand that our board come up with new solutions so that we can continue our lifestyle, and then, out of the goodness of our hearts, because we're the beacon on the hill, we need to provide the same American lifestyle and opportunity worldwide by sharing our technology. But if they're so insistent we have to do this after militarily, like, dominating everyone, then they need to go fight it out, not throw everyone else in the way. I want an elites only giant pillow fight or something. What are we going to have?
Yeah, I know, man. I mean, what's it going to take?
Do we have to kill 1 billion people because a couple dudes don't like each other? This is stupid. This is just dumb. We actually need these people, because what happens if something happens in the future and we need a bunch of minds and we have to come up with solutions for our whole species? It's not we have too many people. It's that we have a few people holding back everybody. That's what's the problem. If we had 7 billion people with bachelor's degrees even, we'd be everywhere. We'd be colonizing the universe with all that brain power available with education. I mean, it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, sooner or later we'll get to this point where we unlock all this potential, and we'll throw off all the parasite that's holding us all down, which is basically the government and these huge corporate monetary monoliths that are holding us all down, and they're holding humanity down.
What if 1% of the world were geniuses, but everybody in the world got access to college? That would leave 70 million, I don't know. Who's smart? Neil deGrasse Tyson's? Let's just throw a genius name out there. What if we had 70 million of that guy?
Exactly. I mean, where would that get us? It would get us pretty far, you know. Quickly, I want to just throw the phone number out there. If you guys want to call in and chime in on any of this stuff that we're talking about, feel free. The phone number is 718-717-8296. Once again, 718-717-8296. Call in. Let's talk. If you guys want to talk about what we're talking about, you want to talk about something different, we don't care. Whatever you want to talk about. Hopefully on a little bit on topic here. And then make sure you guys check out UCY.tv. Check out all the great hosts, all the great journalists that are on here. There's guests all the time, journalists. I mean, great info, independent stuff. You can tune in on your phone too, so you don't got to listen to this mainstream radio while you're driving like a lot of people do. You can just turn on your phone, go on the website, and let it play through your auxiliary cord in your car while you're driving to work. I mean, what better way to kill the time than to actually get some truth and some real info other than this propaganda that we're hearing through the mainstream?
Right. I mean, it's just stupid. The saber rattling and trying to sell this war that, honestly, unless we're so far off base that we don't know what we've read, it seems to me that we're like 30 years ahead of Russia. Is this even going to be anything but an awful, not necessary slaughter of these dudes over there? Are we not going to come out with all kinds of crazy crap and things that are going to boggle the mind? It's 2014. What did we have when we took Iraq over in 2003? We took them over with stuff that was sci-fi. What do we have now 11 years later?
Yeah, and you know what?
It's stupid. We're going to blow them unless we know nothing. We're going to blow them away, and it's so needless.
And you know, in wartime, the technology always advances, and that's what we saw. From 2001 to now, what have we seen? Drones.
Yep.
Drones. That's the only technology that they've been really driving home, man. And
That's all you need.
They're trying to replace the military men and women with drones. And then guess what? Now you don't got to have these guys committing suicide. Now you don't got to have these guys shooting up military bases because they're not going. The machines can't be driven crazy from doing unjust acts, from committing unneeded violence, and that's why these troops are losing it. And they bring them home, they throw them on all these meds, and then it gets even worse.
Well, they're having now a pipeline system for DHS, which is if you have a bachelor's degree, come become a drone operator, and you start at $50K. This is for DHS. This is for Homeland. This is because we're going to have what's known as the eye in the sky curtain, where you can never invade us with 30,000 drones in the air. Good luck. And they want guys with degrees to come in and pilot them.
Yeah, and people listening may think this is like sci-fi or conspiracy, but no, man, these drones are already out there. One just wrecked about 20 miles from my house, right off the coast. I mean, they're there. They're already up there. You just don't know about them. You can't really see them. You can't.
They
a lot
sound
of times,
like a little buzz. They sound like a brr. If you ever hear brr like that, it's a mini propeller. I mean, they don't need a big one anymore. They just need a little for the lift.
Yeah, and they don't have predators flying over us yet, so they're not that low. I mean, these drones are up there very, very high in the sky. Most times you can't even see them or hear them.
It's just a surveillance web. It's a network. It's to protect, but also to control, because it'll link everything eventually and make us impregnable. But at the same time, you can't get in, you can't get out. And it's not going to be free here anymore, so to speak. So the bread and circus and the endless proxy war in the 1984 Orwell all told us about with 3 superpowers, it seems prophetic, does it not?
I mean, it's so Orwellian. All right. I mean, let's jump into our second news story of the night. The U.S. government is launching Operation Free the Press. Now, if this isn't the most Orwellian thing you've ever heard, then call in and let us know, because I mean, we're talking about the government that just threw Bradley Manning in jail. We're talking about the government that is actively pursuing Edward Snowden. We're talking about the government that's been spying on our journalists, and they're trying to spread internet just like they're trying to spread democracy all around the world now, and they're trying to spread free press, apparently. It's like
they just come out with the end game. Listen, the Onion needs to be given privy information. Give everything. Snowden should give all of his documents to the Onion, and they can just release them verbatim. That way, a lot of people will be like, ha ha ha, but everybody else will be like, whoa, wait. Somehow the truth's going to have to come out, correct? You can't just bury this stuff. There's just too many people now. You can't kill enough bankers. I mean, you can't let these things perpetuate with so many people with the internet. Once you make anything on the internet, it's there forever, and that's for these guys too. And the guys at the top are now turning on each other, right? They're jostling, and things are going to start coming out. And I don't know how asleep we are, but in other countries, it seems that people are getting mighty peeved at what they're finding out.
Yeah, we've seen the polling. Most people in the world, they did a poll of like 80 countries or something. Most countries in the world believe that the U.S. government is the biggest threat to the security of the world. The biggest threat to world peace is the U.S. government, And unfortunately, as Americans, we kind of take the hit on this stuff when we travel abroad and stuff, because people are starting to look at us like, oh, these lousy Americans, they don't even know what the hell they're doing over here, man. Their government is doing all these evil things and wasting all their money. They don't even have a clue. Most people think we're just ignorant. Most people think we're just so hubris that we just don't even realize what's going on. Unfortunately, a lot of Americans really don't. A lot of people think what we're doing is right.
This is the Matrix. I mean, the bread and circus has been perfected to a psychological, scientific degree by people that have roots in paperclip, and they've come over and pioneered things, and it made us, gave us a huge leap, and that's why this fight with Russia is still going to have that 30-year gap we've had on them forever. And it doesn't matter how much tech they steal from us. The tech we always have is always what we reveal, and it's always way behind what we actually have. And this is what's going on. It's at that point. We are the superpower now, and it's not close. Now, our economy may implode, and that could create some problems, but for the people at the very top that have all these dumbs and underground stuff and really control things, it's not going to be but a blip on the radar.
For most of them, when the economy collapses, for most of them, they get richer.
Well, yeah, they have farms. They bought all the farms up. They own food. Food's going to be the only thing worth anything. Anything. You're going to have a lot of people out there that have guns, and they're going to end up probably fighting each other off for what? And then the army will come in and take over, and then food's going to be everything. What can you do to earn this meal? That's how it always goes.
Exactly, which is why the food freedom movement is so important, man. It's so important to have at least get your own thing going, or figure out some provisions to secure your food locally.
You have to.
Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, anytime you rely on anybody for anything, you're putting your freedom, your collateral is your freedom. So if you're relying on this food grid and you go shopping at Walmart for your food, guess what? The collateral for that food is your freedom. And if you want to get that food supply in a tough spot, then you're going to have to give up a lot of your freedom.
Everything. I mean, what would a microchip do to your life if forevermore you had something that tracked you and more or less tied in your financials to it? I mean, yeah, under the precipice of it being your health, but that's just silly. No need for that. With modern biometrics, you don't need to have a microchip. We can find you by your fingerprint and your eyes, and shoot, even your DNA. We don't need something implanted. That's just another, cause and effect way to take advantage of it and dupe all these sheeples and to being tracked at all times. And it's just, it will go to that point at some point. Shoot, it's mandated in at 2017, I believe, that's when it's supposed to be kicked in, and that the January 1st of 2015 is when it enters into the tax code. And then when you don't have health care, they actually just rescind your tax refund. So you better start claiming one. I would start claiming one now and start owing them instead of them owing you, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, RFIDs are already pretty prevalent in Canada, and they're making their way already into the schools. There was a big story out of Texas that a little girl refused the RFID because what they were doing is trying to reduce the amount of kids that were ditching school. So they were sticking them with these RFID cards. You know,
that would work. What are the cops going to do? Go mace them, put them in a handcuff, and choke them?
Exactly, and it's completely backwards. It's just like, I don't know if you've noticed around here, but they're building these walls around the schools. There's like 10-foot walls around every school now. It's like a prison.
Yep.
And it's like, it's a typical government thinking. It's not, they're not looking at, okay, well, why do these kids hate school? Why do these kids always ditch? But they're looking at it like, hey, we need to keep these kids in like a prison. You know, just make it impossible for them to escape, even though they hate it. You know, and it's like, you wonder why kids hate school so much. It's because for the most part, school sucks.
Well, with the internet and with Skype and with virtual academies opening, if you're a progressive enough parent and have maybe a child that you've raised correctly and you don't need to worry about them doing something insane while you leave them at home, they can go to school online. It's possible. Virtual academies and virtual schools are 5 to 10 years away. And then you can pick and choose who's going to teach your child, not who's going to indoctrinate them to this endless paradigm of idiocy that's going on right now with statism and the expanse of a state that really has nothing in there's no advantage to being here unless you're rich anymore. So unless 300 million people are cool with that, then something's going to give at some point, right?
Exactly. Now my girlfriend's just about ready to she's just finishing school to be a teacher. And I've gotten into this argument with her before about this homeschooling, internet assisted homeschooling and things like this. And she's like, "Well, no, the kids need the
socialization.
The kids need the camaraderie of being around other kids." Which in a way I agree. So why don't we have these community-based schools where one of the parents opens up their home, 15, 20 kids get to come into that house, and the parent, you know, makes them lunch and takes care of them, lets them do the school. If they have questions, they could ask the parent, you know, cause you know, when you're doing internet school, you may not be able to ask the person teaching you the questions. So at least have a parent around that's familiarized with this stuff to help out when they have questions and stuff. I mean, dude, we can open source education like overnight almost. I mean, it's already happening.
And you can have something like 20 students going to someone's house. They have this classroom set up, and then you'll have somebody at a PhD level teach them virtually over the internet, and somebody there could have be an associate, maybe a BA or something in that nature, and you have 2 people teach 20, so it's a 10-to-1 ratio, and you could do everything. There'll be specializations for grades, and man, you could revolutionize things, because as it is right now, it's 44-to-1, I believe. I mean, 44 students to 1 teacher is absolutely ridiculous. Nobody's learning because nobody can get individualized care. But 10-to-1, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and
that could work.
And then the direction that the school system at large is going in is just more of this cookie cutter, standardized testing, standardized education,
it's Common
which is
Core
clearly failing everybody.
Nightmare.
Yeah, it's failing everyone.
Yeah, it is a nightmare because you have. It's unfortunate, but at a point where maybe 4th or 5th grade, you begin to see where people's talents lie intellectually. It's not to say that you're going to be discriminatory, but put people where they're strongest. Not everybody's a biochemist. Let's get people into things similar to Japan, ABC schools, where you'll have a mechanic. He goes to a C school. He's not the best guy, but he's good with his hands. And he's making still a good living doing something for the community. It's specialization, and it's not something to, you know, be ashamed of that we're good at different things. Not everybody needs to be driven down to the lowest common denominator, especially not with education and with healthcare, with Obamacare. It's stupid. It's backwards.
Yeah, man, and it's, you know, like you were saying, it's everybody has something they're good at, you know, and some people are artists, some people are writers, some people are mathematicians, some people are scientists. Unfortunately, in the current system, you don't really get to choose what you want to do until you get out of high school, which is like most of your learning, most of this, your time for absorbing a lot of information is gone. Yep. Because that's when your mind is growing and taking in the most info. And now they just dumb you down with all these, all these generalized classes and a lot of stuff that most people don't actually use practically. And it fills up your mind with crap that you're never going to use, and you don't get to actually develop what you're good at.
No, I mean, we should specialize at 13. We get a good idea of what somebody's good at by then. They're a teenager. They're becoming an adult. I mean, had that happened for me, I would probably be some kind of writer now pumping out novels because I would have followed a passion and what I was good at. But when you generalize, yeah, you want Renaissance men and women because you want a good broad-based education. To a point, you don't need people that are going to have such a wide base when we need people that are experts in a new field now. We have a lot of things automated. Blue collars basically more or less phased out. Yeah, we need people to know how to fix the machines, but the machines are going to do everything, and we need people to be specialists and experts at their passions so that they're really good at it.
Exactly, man. And I think we're going to have to start an Orwellian segment every week because I got another Orwellian story here that we're going to jump into right now. The U.S. government has come out and urged people to not use Microsoft Internet Explorer because it has got a dangerous security breach in it. And this is just after these guys got done exploiting the Heartbleed bug for about 2 years.
Who uses Internet Explorer, though? I thought Microsoft had pretty much given up. I mean, why would they continue to make updates to this? They don't even update XP anymore, and that is the shiz. So they suck. And everybody knows it, and the only reason that they have any kind of market share at all is they just keep buying out all their competitors and swooping them up, and that's a monopoly for you. They suck, they don't innovate, and Windows Data is awful unless you hack it. So, I mean, that's where it's at. That's where it's at.
They're basically patent trolls that don't create innovation anymore. Yeah, maybe
Apple tries at least. They at least try. But they rip off Samsung. Everybody rips everybody off. There's lots of corporate espionage now. And that's why there is things like Heartbleed and Stuxnet and all these other crazy gigantic worms.
Yeah, man, and it's just like there's no credibility left, when the government urges us to do something or to protect ourselves from something after they just got done beating us up on it. It's like they just got done hacking our info for 2 years. The NSA knew about Heartbleed for 2 years, and now they want to come give us advice on cybersecurity. Really?
There's no privacy. If you think you have any privacy and you're and you live in a country where the government has any kind of resources in tech, you're fooling yourself. Like everything probably since me and you have been like 10 or 12 years old, more or less been watched in some capacity. And it is what it is. This is a new world. Now, whatever order comes out of that chaos, that's for me and you to dictate and for people's hearts and minds, we hope. And that's the only reason that we keep pressing on, because enough people decide to change their minds. Maybe that people at the top would too, right? We hoped.
Yeah, man. And if we go in the right direction, it won't even matter what the people at the top think. We make them irrelevant in the ideal situation. We'd love it if we did that. We're far from it though, and there's a lot of work still to do, and that's why I think, for me, that's why I keep pressing on with this stuff, because, the fight won't be over until everybody's free. Because if there's some people that aren't free, then guess what? There's still injustice in the world, man. And
a world of people that are free, who are able to have access to education, would be a world that would be amazing.
And it would become a bunch of worlds because we'd be the hell off this planet pretty quickly.
Yeah, quick, with a quickness, because conceptually what we can imagine, we can create. It just takes manpower hours. It takes man hours. So you just need more people that have the skills to be able to visualize and conceptualize things and make it reality. And then it just takes the hard work. And collectively we could kill it. We'd have a giant colony ships all over the place by now if we just all come together.
Now, while we're on this education thing, because I think it's definitely connected with this next story, apparently now 20% of families have nobody working in the whole family.
Wow.
And that's pretty huge, which means that entire family is either reliant on pensions, which are basically reliant on Wall Street, or they're reliant on the government subsidy or the entitlement. And that is a very, very scary situation. That means 20% of families are basically in FEMA camps, if minimum, if things go down and there's no way to feed these people.
Well, gold and silver, gold and silver, gold and silver, please, people. Please have hard assets and I know it's so passe to say it, but have some freaking firearms to protect those assets when these crazy people start going out and trying to do crazy stuff. You don't want to use them, just show them to people and they'll move on. I mean, don't get all nuts. You hope. But that's what it'll be, man. The Great Depression, again, but instead of with how many people? 40 million? Now we'll have 300. So it's going to be like a lot worse and a lot crazier, and we want to get away from big, giant urban centers because they'll just become jungles.
Yeah, and you know, the way I look at this thing, and you know, these are record numbers here, that, you know, 20% is basically the highest. In the last 2 years, it's been really close to 20%. But it's the failing of the education system, because they're training people for the old economy.
Right.
The new economy is getting picked up by people that are saying, screw college and I'm going to do it this way. Or it's getting picked up by people that are willing to be hired as engineers from India for a lot cheaper.
Right.
And so the average American taxpayer, the average American schoolgoer is getting the short end of the stick, and the bureaucrats and the corporations are just making a killing off this stuff.
Until what, though? Until there's a global currency reset. And then guess what will happen to even people that are millionaires right now, and they're not at the level of owning actual hard assets and having men with guns to protect them. Meaning if you're not in the billionaire class, that everything you own is more or less up for grabs. Can you protect it? Do you have an army? Do you have a Blackstone investment group with Academy behind it? These dudes already have their mansions and their gold, and they're taken care of. They have private armies. Do people not get that? They have 5,000 men that'll protect their whole little fiefdom and all their prime farmlands. Everything's all set. The global currency reset renders nearly everybody poor again. It's serfdom.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why we have to build the new economy out. And then
we all have to own our own kingdoms. We all have to become our own kings of our own kingdoms. Otherwise, we become serfs to one king, one ruler. And it goes back to a new feudal that's kept enforced with an unbelievable technology grid.
Yeah, and no more having to hire guys to be vigilantes. No more having to hire hit squads. I mean, we're talking about in about 10 years, it's going to be all autonomous drones. And you give the drone, you say, hey, go take care of this guy for me, and that's it. And there's no conscience in play. There's no human error. There's no compassion. I mean, we're talking about cold, hard machines that just take orders.
It's short-sighted. It's short-sighted because even the people at the very top, unless they're not human beings, which that's always been a point of contention, have to understand, even in their coldest psychopathic heart, that this could kill every human being ever because we'll be killed by our own machines, and it's backward thinking. And we need to evolve as a whole species so we can have some kind of a jump and a step and a shift and get off our planet and become something a lot more than we are right now, which is just a bunch of petty fighting upright apes.
More or less. I mean, that's what we've devolved into. And it's a controlled devolution, I guess, controlled by the media and the establishment to keep themselves in power and to keep us working and turning the wheels, making them richer, it seems. And,
they don't have a planet B that I know of. They have a really crappy time if they ruin things on this planet. They'll go underground or go to some stupid base on Mars or something if that exists. It's not like they're going to have a great time if they ruin this place. It'd be in their best interest to just assume a leadership role, come out in the open, let everything be free and let free energy go and then make it boom.
So, we talked about Kerry a bit earlier, and Kerry is always this character, man. He doesn't even look like a damn human. But he came out with a Freudian slip today, and he warned that Israel could become an apartheid state. And you know, and a lot of what I see is that basically in Palestine, it's already kind of an apartheid state, and they've got they've got the whole place closed in. They don't allow food into Palestine. I mean,
well, did you hear Donald Sterling's statement about how in Israel they treat the blacks like dogs? There's many Ethiopian Jews, about 1 million of them, that have gone there in asylum, and they're still in these. They're in as bad of a ghetto as they were treated to in Poland and other places. The ethnic Jews in World War II, just herded in like cattle and given meager, sustenance, and they don't have a way to really compete in an economy where there are refugees. Their children may be able to, but they're going to always have the racist thing going on there. And Donald Sterling, the owner of the Clippers, kind of alluded to that. It's an apartheid state because of some weird, crazy racism, and maybe it all came from an influx of Russian immigrants, which is kind of weird in itself. A lot of Russian Jews moved there, and they were kind of already, well, everybody sucks but Russians. And then we're also Jews, too. We're going to take Israel over. It's always been that kind of weird thing going on there.
Yeah, man, and the people there in the Palestinians are suffering. I mean, they don't get access to healthcare, medicine. They don't get access to very much food. People can't even. I mean, you could hardly even get humanitarian aid into that place without it being taken by the Israelis at sea. We've seen the ships that get taken over, and the people that were trying to bring aid in there, and they're trying to break through the blockade and all that stuff, and it just doesn't end well for these people.
Well, what can you do? I mean, it was designed to be a point of contention and a hotspot permanently. Like, you displaced all these people, nobody will take them in. It's weird that the other Arab countries don't take in these refugees. They let them linger in the tiny West Bank and Gaza Strip. They don't give them asylum, because they're not the right kind of nationality either. See, they're all tribal and cultural over there. And it's just a nightmare situation, and it's endless. I mean, what would be the end result? That they just completely quarantine the Gaza Strip and leave 1.5 million people just stuck? And eventually just starve them out? I mean...
That's where it's heading, man. And, there's always this talking point. I went down with my buddy, I have this buddy, and he's actually Jewish, but he's converted over to Islam. And we went down to protests because Netanyahu was supposed to be coming to San Diego. He ended up canceling. I like to say it was because of us, but I doubt it because there was only like 3 of us down there. But we talked to a lot of these people because what was going on was this international Jewish conference, and there was a lot of the Jewish people that were there that were like saying, they were like, yeah, like, we don't agree with what's going on there. It's messed up, and they're treating the Palestinians bad, and a lot of the Jews know that. But it's just like here, where a lot of the American people know that our government is committing atrocities, but the government still does it, and there's not much we can do about it because we try to vote and we try to voice our opinion, but they don't listen. And it's the same thing happening over there. I mean, it's basically the same form of government. It's technically a Republican democracy. So basically it's probably an oligarchy just like we have here.
Well, the study in Princeton said it was, and that's the way it is everywhere because the elite class, the wealth is ridiculous. Like Putin's 70 billion. I mean, come on.
It's everywhere, man. There's no country that can really escape it until we start trying to talk about, and this is the point I was trying to get. A lot of these people, even the people who are like, oh yeah, we don't like what's going on. We want a 2-state solution, and that's like the main the 2-state solution, and Obama talks about it, Kerry talked about it, everyone talks about it. How about a no-state solution? Have we ever thought about that? That's what would create some real peace, man, where we said, okay, we don't have to draw a line in the sand, which is just going to be another point of contention. If you create a 2-state solution, then it's still going to be a point of contention because then they're always going to say, oh, well, that should have been our land. And the other side's going to say, well, that part should have been our land. And they're going to fight each other over that.
There are long cultural bounds that don't matter anymore because we're truly global. We really are. Even in Papua New Guinea and the most backwards kind of countries, there is the internet and everybody is exposed to everybody. So I think we need to transition from what they want, a new world order where they rule it all, to what we want, a free world order where we're all free to come and go as we please. We'll all teach each other. We'll all have access to everything and watch what we can do.
Yeah, and I mean, if everybody can, of course, everyone values their own cultural uniqueness. Sure. But we don't have to force it on anybody else, and that's where I think large amount of the violence in the world comes from, and a large amount of the injustice comes from. is from people trying to force their cultural ideas onto other people. Why can't we just say, look, I love my culture and I want to practice, do what we do culturally, but at the same time, I accept you for who you are and your culture, and I love it, and I'm just glad that everyone's free to do what they want to do, you know? Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll catch you on Wednesday.